This podcast brought to you by Basecrete, leaders in waterproof bond coatings for the swimming pool and construction industry.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. Today I'm here with two pioneers in the pool industry, Skip Phillips and Brian Van Bauer, the innovators and creators of the illustrious Genesis program. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys.
Yeah.
So, guys, can you give me a little bit of background about how the Genesis program got started and maybe a little bit about your background in the pool industry?
Back in early 1998, Skip and I had been teaching programs for what was then NSPI, and we approached them, Skip approached them, because we had decided that even though we were teaching programs, there wasn't programs that interested us that much. And we wanted them to go outside of the industry instead of having thinly veiled product demonstrations as education and actually bring in instructors that were credible, particularly having people like landscape architects and talk about design things and things that were outside of our normal realm. And they told Skip right away, there's no use for that, right?
Yeah, they said that there was no market for an advanced program, and that, in fact, if we held a venue like that, that they would give us $100 per person that would attend something like that. And I found it so offensive that I got up and said, that's all right, I'll do it myself. And Brian was in the room and he stood up and he goes, no, he isn't going to do it himself. We're going to do it together. And David Tishman was a partner in that venture at that time. And when we put on our first school, we actually hadn't thought it out any further than that. And one of the students came in to the Morro Bay location where we were at, and he goes, are you the Genesis guys? And I was almost hesitant to say yes, because I didn't know what was going to follow with that, because it was unheard of to have a program like this anywhere in the industry. And he said, well, you only think this is expensive. I'm Gary Brown and I'm from Canada, and this had better be great. And that's how we started. And the weekend that we spent there, we went back to our home offices thinking that, we had honored the bet and it was successful. And then I think there was the Genesis office was in mine at that time. And I think there was 20 out of 22 people called me on that Monday and said, what are we doing next? And I said, what's this WEEP thing? We hadn't really thought it out that far, but it became obvious that there was like-minded people that knew that this industry didn't have any valid education, and they were willing to team up with us to move it ahead. So, when you think about it, the success in the Genesis program, this is really independent of the fact that it's, we've been doing this over two decades, and we have over 6,000 students internationally that have gone through this program. But the people that were talented, that wanted to do something better, there was just simply no venue for it. And there was a lot of obstacles, obviously, as we moved Genesis ahead, trying to find venues. But the proof is in the people that have gone through the program and their products. I mean, if you look at vessels now versus 22, 23 years ago, they're not built the same, they're not designed the same. And that's really because of the Genesis system.
Our personal background, I started in pool service and worked for other pool service companies. And then I started my own pool service company and built it up from one pool to about 600 accounts, and had 20 employees in 2 different retail locations. And sometime during that time, I decided that I would start building stuff. And I went out and tried to educate myself somewhat and built some spas. And then I started building pools. And then I started doing design work in 1989 and sold my first company in 1991 after 20 years. And Aquatic Consultants is my current company. And we operate out of Miami, and we do design projects worldwide. We're currently working from Africa all the way to Greece. And we have projects in the Caribbean. We do a lot of work for Sir Richard Branson on Mosquito Island. And we have projects for, I'm not allowed to say, but it's a football player that plays for Tampa, and he plays at quarterback. And we've done 2 projects for him. And I'm a product of the Genesis system. And Skip has a similar story as far as service goes.
Yeah, I started in service in 1975. We developed to 3 retail outlets. We were doing 1,100 pools a week. And then in 1978 or 79, I decided that, I wanted to be able to build. And I went to school to learn how to take the test and passed the test. My second pool won a design award, which is frankly more of an indictment on the pool industry than it is an endorsement of me. But, tried to develop my skill sets. And in 93, became president of the trade association, NSPI at that time. And then Brian and I have already mentioned about, the process that we got involved in Genesis, which was a knee-jerk reaction to what we considered to be invalid certifications and invalid educational processes that kept the industry dumbed down.
I know that there's a lot of builders that I've spoken to that have credited the Genesis program with just making them better builders, teaching them how to build high-end luxury pools. I mean, this program has been something that's been kind of your baby for many years. How did PHTA wind up with the program, and how has the program evolved since?
Genesis, back several years ago, we were approached by the foundation and they wanted to partner with Genesis and assume control of Genesis. And we thought it was time to grow. So we partnered with the Swimming Pool Foundation, NSPF, and we decided that Skip and I knew that we needed to seek the involvement of more of our primary players, people that had gone through our system and stuff. So we created an advisory board with some of our people, and they were active with the foundation. And then shortly after that, the foundation merged with APSP, and now we happen to be in the office at PHTA, or Pool and Hot Tub Association. And so now we have great resources, both financially and knowledge-wise, because instead of two pool guys and a couple of helpers putting together programs, we now have staff and training, and we have people that are knowledgeable in marketing and so forth. And we feel that today we're stronger than we've ever been. The programs are better. We have better faculty, and been pleased with the outcome of our programs of late.
Can you guys tell me a little bit about how Genesis maybe is different than other programs that are currently available in the industry?
Well, Genesis is obviously the origin of really any of the advanced educational systems on the planet. So we've been global for some time. We had ISET approval, multiple schools in Europe and Australia. So Genesis, with its curriculum, has really set the stage, not just to launch other careers. I mean, frankly, almost anyone that you see or talk to that has reached some level of design and construction or status in this industry came through our program. So in our view, the real value of Genesis and the success of it is in the people that are successful that came through your program. And we've got a lot of people in the educational funnel, and we're proud of the success of Genesis because we see it in the products and the people that are involved really anywhere in the country, and also internationally with our friends, especially in Europe.
What are some of the differences between the program that people take at Genesis and, say, maybe Watershapes University? Into what you just said now, which is some of the people who set up other programs or who are helping participate in other programs actually came through Genesis. What are some of the differences between, say, your program and their program? Is your program like a more in-depth program? Does it have options as to the curriculum that you can go?
Well, obviously, the depth in Genesis is significant. We have a very deep staff on the design side, working with Kate Wiseman, who has her master's in landscape architecture. Great designers, Frost, Kirk Bianchi are just a couple of names. And then on the engineering side, Terry Brannon is a great instructor, very knowledgeable. And we now have 3 engineers to work with on the engineering side. So I really can't speak to how these other programs are structured, but we do know that the basis for that and the basis for their credibility and their certifications is really based on what was learned in Genesis. So they were concerned, I think, as we were, that the merger would result in some sort of a challenge with our program. That turned out not to be the case, but they wanted to have their own program and do it their own way. And there's some talented people there, and I actually credit Genesis for that success.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that there's a single high-end builder that I've spoken to that says that they've taken the Genesis program that says that they haven't walked away a better builder. What are the differences between a SWD master and SWD registered?
Those are just different levels of education. So a Genesis associate, and there's a minimal amount of education required to become that, to be able to claim that. You have to have taken our basic pool construction course in Engineering 211 and our basic fluid engineering or hydraulic program. And then you can use the title Genesis Associate. And then when you move on to the registered level, you step up to a requirement for over 150 hours to achieve the SWD registered. And you end up with a different set of rules of use of logos and so forth. And there are several principal courses that are required along with some electives currently. And then our masters currently, that requires a project submittal and then an evaluation by an advisory board.
So this is like a legitimate higher educational program. Like this is like the equivalent of, say, going to college for pool construction and pool design, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And of course, we were here hopefully at the tail end of a pandemic. One of the things that Skip and I feel strongly about is the fact that when the pandemic occurred and shows were canceled all over and programs weren't happening, we finally had to make our programs available virtually. And we've done an outstanding job with that. In 2021, we did over 20 sessions of education, and we had 4 virtual schools, delivered over 55 hours of education there. We have over 150 students from 112 different companies that have gone through our programs, and we have 17 new SWD registered professionals that came on board just in 2021, which I think is amazing considering the difficulty in trying to do anything in this year.
Yeah, it's been very hard for the industry. I mean, all of the different shows got shut down last year. I know that's how you disseminate a lot of your information. Has the online program proven to be maybe a new vehicle for you guys in terms of growing your program? Do you think that's something that you're going to pursue even after COVID?
Absolutely. That gives us the reach that we're looking for. It gives us the flexibility that the students are looking for. There's some classes that are difficult to teach in a virtual environment, and there's some that work out well. Some of them work out well, even be recorded and offered to different groups. So it's not either, it's both.
So this is the new way of doing business now. It's like distance learning is now part of the Genesis program.
It is. And obviously, we approached it with some trepidation about how well it was going to be received. And the exit surveys and comments from our attendees were of the highest level. Actually, we were shocked at how highly regarded these virtual programs were. We have quotes from some of the builders that attended, and they make us feel really good about how things are going.
Sure. I mean, like you would think that if programs like this had been available when both of you were coming up, that it would have been a complete game changer. What are some of the things that one would learn at construction school taking the Genesis program?
Our construction school is a program that every single pool builder, regardless of perceived experience, should take. We get down to basics and we cover issues that are so effective that even going back 20 years ago, 23 years ago, people would come out of our class in the first break and call their office and say, don't dig another pool, don't put any more steel in, don't shoot another shell, don't put a stick of plumbing in until I get home. We're doing this all different. And it's still the same today. We have advanced construction courses as well, but I can tell you that the effect of our education is seen every time you open up a magazine page, because the vessels that this industry is doing today on how they're built and how they're designed are a direct reference to the momentum of the Genesis program.
You also teach a lot of design techniques there. One of the programs I think I'm familiar with is the color theory and application program that you have. What are some of the things that, say, a designer would learn taking that program?
Well, what's interesting is going back, well over a decade, we saw the value of incorporating color theory and learning some of the vocabulary and the influences of all these various design features. Color influences everything we do, the clothes we buy, the cars we purchase, how we decorate our houses, and it also influences the materials and color palettes of the pools. And frankly, if you don't understand and you haven't been to a class with Faraz, then it's almost the equivalent of going into design blind.
Yeah, Faraz Hirakat has been a tremendous instructor. He's inspiring, and he has such an insight into trends and color and its impact on people, how different colors affect people. And bear in mind, we come from an industry that years ago thought it was okay to have red brick coping and blue and green tile with butterflies on it. That was their idea of a good pool. And it's just so far off base. And unfortunately, there's still some people doing it that way. And he changes everyone's perspective on how important color can be in the overall environment.
A lot of the people that I've spoke to that have taken the program said that the events that you guys have put on over the years are some of the best that they've ever been to. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about some of the things that you do in terms of bringing the industry together and some of the things that you're teaching them on these events?
Well, in some cases, these are events that are specifically structured around travel to a destination and its architectural references. Our very first schools were in Morro Bay for a reason, and it was because of its proximity to Hearst Castle, which has two of the most iconic pools in the world. We worked out an agreement with the state of California to be able to have special focus tours. And our passion for food and wine, which is also a passion of our clients, has been a core value of ours since our very first school. Since that time, obviously, we have a lot of travel under our belt, giving schools in Italy and France, multiple schools in Germany and Australia. And generally, we'll have people go along with us on those programs, and we'll typically incorporate an architectural connection or a design connection with those programs. And frankly, Genesis is absolutely unique in that. We've taken the leadership role in that since our inception. We continue to do it today.
And we currently are members of the BSW, which is the German Pool Association. And we did several programs in Germany for the German pool industry. We've done programs in Australia. We've been there several times doing programs. And we continue to communicate with them on upcoming programs. And we've been to shows in Europe, which we highly recommend to our students to see how our industry is portrayed in other countries and how their focus is slightly different than the focus here in the United States. And we also do some social events. Typically at International Pool Spa Expo, we have a winemaker dinner family reunion. And sometimes we have upwards of 175 people at that event. And we often have a very high quality winemaker present, and we recognize some of our students for their accomplishments. And we talk about the fact that the industry as a whole has improved greatly under the tutorage of some of our instructors. And we feel like we've made a difference in the industry. And Skip and I continue to work with Genesis because we believe it's important. And we are really thrilled to see what the merger of the two organizations brought to the table on behalf of Genesis. And we're fortunate that the leadership of PHTA, particularly the head, Sabina Hickman, she recognizes Genesis for the benefit that it is, doesn't want to degrade it in any way, and is strongly in favor of keeping it in the forefront. And of course, now we have the power of the PHTA association behind Genesis. So we have chapters and members that are spread across the country and beyond that will be interested and are interested in our programs. So right now, the future is bright. And we're in a meeting right now. Skip and I are in Alexandria, Virginia, at the headquarters of PHTA, sitting in a meeting with 20 people sitting around a table, doing nothing but working on Genesis programs and events and future. And we have been doing that for 2 days. And it's an amazing team that we have behind us now, and stronger than ever. And I commented to the group today, I personally feel that our classes and programs, instructors and everything are better today than they've ever been. I'm going to go back and take some programs a second time because they're so much different than they were when they were given 20 years ago.
What kind of background and prior pool industry experience does your typical program attendee have?
It's so diverse. We've got people that come to attend a class that have never built a pool before. We have some of the most talented and experienced pool designers and builders in the world attend our classes. We have CEUs available for architects and landscape architects. And we get a lot of people through the landscape industry and also through the architectural industry. So the programs that we do are broad-based enough to where we get people of all different levels in our own industry, and we draw into key players from other industries as well.
Well, thank you so much for that, Skip. And thank you too, Brian, for taking the time to discuss the Genesis program with us today.
Joe, this is Skip. One additional thing, I really appreciate what you're doing, interviewing folks and getting these various messages out. I think that's admirable. And I'm blessed that you included us in your program.
Absolutely our pleasure. That was Skip Phillips and Brian Van Bauer, the founders of the Genesis program. That's all the time we have today, so thank you for listening in. A big thanks to our sponsor, Basecrete, the leaders in waterproof bond coatings. Make sure to subscribe and tune in to our next episode where I'll be chatting with Scott Cummings and Ben Lassiter of Design Ecology. We'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.